Nobody's sugarcoating what's happening in Dallas right now, and that includes Troy Aikman. The three-time Super Bowl champ said the whole organization was in need of a complete overhaul.
I've heard Jerry say, okay, look, we're going to do it differently. I'm going to do it differently. But it's the same. Nothing changes. And that, to me, is the bigger issue. Yes, coaching is important, personnel, all those things are important. But how are you going about evaluating? How are you going about running the organization? And whatever that looks like, and everyone has an opinion on what it does look like, but I'm not in the building. I have no idea. You know, I talk to people who have been inside the building and have a pretty good understanding of how things are run. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of dysfunction, and that has to change if this team is going to be able to compete on a consistent basis like the teams that you look to around the league that seemingly are in the hunt each and every year.
Look, see, Troy makes a very good point. You maybe want to just, like Scrabble, throw in your tiles and start over again. But they've got a stud running back. This is a young team. You got your center that's going to come back. Is it worth maybe just trying to move a few pieces around to see what you can make out of this team that you currently have?
Yeah, I got a tremendous lot of respect for Troy. And I like the way Troy put that, because he's not in the building. As an ex-Cowboy, when you start having critical comments about the organization, to me, I listen to him very, very carefully. And Troy doesn't typically criticize Dallas in the fashion that he's doing. But I don't think it's a complete overhaul. But what Troy is saying is how they do business needs to be overhauled. As far as they could fire the coach, but it's not going to matter if Jerry is making all the major decisions. So that's what Troy's talking about, the dysfunction. Like, if you hire a coach, you have to let that coach either grow the organization, grow what he's going to do in that locker room. It can't be always Jerry. What does Jerry think? Every time he's got comments on a radio show week after week. He's got his own radio show. As an owner, I think he's the only one in the league that's got it. So there is a lot of dysfunction to that. So when he hires a coach, is he actually going to let that coach run that organization? And that part right there, Jerry's not going to do. So Troy is right in a sense of saying the dysfunction. What difference does it make if he changed the coach if he keeps doing things the same way? Now, I think, like you, Jenna, they've gone about getting players the right way. They have drafted some great players. They have some talent, not only on the offense as far as Zeke and a couple of those offensive linemen, Zach Martin, the guard, Travis Frederick, get him back to being healthier next season. Like they have Smith, Amari Cooper. Man, they have some players, Vander Esch, Byron Jones, Jalen Smith.
Well, that's the thing. See, go ahead.
They drafted all those players. So I just believe, and trading for Amari Cooper, if you look at the college football draft, there's no guy going to be ranked as high as Amari Cooper. So they really are getting great value from the picks. Jerry's mentality is not going to change. So the dysfunction, Jenna, will continue. But I'm like you. I don't think we should tear it down. I believe we got some good pieces that we should be able to move on from.
Listen, you're absolutely right about the pieces. If we're talking about building a football team, set coach and quarterback aside. Most important pieces. Got to have a pass rusher. DeMarcus Lawrence is outstanding.
Yes.
I think he's tied for the NFL lead in most sacks over the last 2 years. Left tackle. Tyron Smith is on a great contract, and when healthy is outstanding. They have one of the best running backs in the league. You just mentioned some of the other really good kind of in the middle of the lineup players, the guards, the couple inside linebackers. They have some blue chip players, right? What they don't have is a quarterback, is a coach, and is an organizational philosophy that you can trust. And those three things might be more valuable than the other 50 guys on the roster and every Pro Bowler you can find at corner or left tackle or pass rusher. And I think that's what Troy's talking about. When Troy says organizational overhaul or franchise overhaul, he knows the talent they have. I didn't even mention the wide receiver. They believe they have a number one wide receiver. So number one wide receiver, a pass rusher, a left tackle, a stud running back, another stud or two at the offensive line, a couple more really good linebackers, a corner they like a lot. Yes. All those things are things you would love to have. But you don't know if you have your quarterback. I think you know at this point you don't have your coach. And then you have the added kind of sword hanging over your head of, even if we get the right coach, is he going to be empowered to be the right coach? That's what we're talking about here with the Cowboys, is how many teams in the league right now have as big of a question mark at coach and quarterback as the Cowboys? Tampa?
Jacksonville.
I think Jacksonville's got their coach, though. I like Doug Marrone. I think Doug Marrone, okay.
But you are a collection of your decisions.
Sure.
When you decide to go with Blake Bortles, lets me know, hey, how many games you gonna win? You think your defense gonna shut them out in this new era of football?
Fair enough. So we can include Tampa, Jacksonville, Oakland. I'm adding to that list. The Giants and the Titans are unknowns because they have new coaches. The Bills are an unknown because at least they have a rookie quarterback. It's only a handful of teams that have as big of a question mark as the Cowboys at coaching and quarterback.
You mentioned organizational philosophy. What kind of organizational philosophy would work in this Dallas team, knowing that whoever you bring in has to work under Jerry Jones?
Well, I think the second part of your question undermines the first part in this way. What works is, we're going to have Coach Mangini here in a little bit. He's going to tell you what works is having a singular voice. That singular voice typically should be the head coach. Sometimes it's the general manager. What it never works as when it's the owner. And the Cowboys, it's not, I mean, that to me is where the systemic issues come from.
Jenna, it would be like we have our meetings, and there's some times we have discussions, but at no point in those discussions do anyone here on the show or on the staff think they know more football than me. And I'm not saying that to make you guys to disrespect you, but there's a certain amount of respect. Jerry Jones thinks he knows more football than the offensive staff, especially the offense, because he lets the defensive coaches run it. Rod Marinelli's doing a good job with the defense. When was the last time the Dallas Cowboys have run a play and you said, wow, that's creative? Because I'm going to tell you the best example. New England, every week they run a play, and I'm like, goodness gracious, where'd they get that from? They stole that from someone. I saw another team run that. Wow, how did they do that? I have to slow it down and run again. Week after week after week. Let's just start with that. I'm going to hire someone, and I'm going to believe they know more football than me. Wouldn't that be a good way to start today? And if they started that way in Dallas, I believe they would be a lot better off.
Quick, say something witty about him knowing more football than you.
I'm going to say, I got something real witty. I'm going to save it for off camera.
All right. Coming up, how are the Patriots able to keep overcoming injuries to star players? That's next on First Things First.
That's the sound when I hit him.
I really thought he was going to say, we haven't